The federal government is cutting short debate by MPs of its online streaming bill. This in a move that Tories are condemning as draconian and disturbing. They say curbing scrutiny of the bill line by line in committee is a Liberal attempt to rush it through the Commons and will lead to the creation of a flawed law. Bill C-11, as it is known in Parliament, updates Canada's broadcasting laws and would regulate streaming services such as Netflix, as well as YouTube, Spotify, and TikTok. Well, joining us now to give us a deeper insight into Bill C-11 and the way it's being passed through Parliament is Peter Menzies, former Vice Chairman of the CRTC and Senior Fellow at the Macdonald-Laurier Institute. Mr. Menzies, welcome to Forum Daily.
Thank you very much for having me on.
So what powers does this bill give to the CRTC and what platforms will be impacted?
It gives the CRTC an immense amount of power. It actually gives the CRTC authority over the entire internet, globally, not just in Canada, which is breathtaking in scope. The purpose of it is, according to the government, to make sure that streaming companies in Canada are reinvesting in Canada if they're enjoying the system, that they get something, that they pay into the system. But it's far more complicated than that. They're getting into areas where they're going to tell you what you should be watching or promoting Canadian content above your preferred content online on Netflix and that sort of area, and opens all kinds of doors for further regulation, including social media posts.
And what sort of impact would this bill have on content creators on such platforms?
I think it will have a very devastating, could have, depending on how the CRTC implements it. I don't want to understate the danger, but I don't want to overstate the impact and make YouTube content creators more nervous than they have to be, because there's a process that has to unfold. And hopefully, eventually, the CRTC will hear their voices. But there are 100,000 Canadians who make some kind of money as YouTube content creators, and there's about 25 to 30,000 of them for whom it's their full-time job, and it would have a big impact on them. They are a very concerned group of people right now.
So what does this mean for freedom of expression for these content creators on these platforms?
Well, what it does is it suppresses their expression in favor of government approved expression, if you want to put it that way. So if you are licensed and you're getting your money from a government fund, if you are a certified Canadian content provider, in other words, you meet all the standards required by the CRTC as a government agency to qualify for that, then your content will be, the idea behind it is that YouTube and others would then have to promote your content ahead of that from unapproved Canadian content creators. Because there'd be two classes basically, and the government approved and the ungovernment approved, and that obviously has a big impact on your freedom of expression. That you have to be government approved. Government approved gets preferred over non-government preferred.
So we've been seeing a lot of concern around this from content creators, but also MPs, opposing MPs to the Liberals' plan, especially when it comes to expediting the process of passing this bill. So what kind of concerns have been brought up by MPs so far?
Well, I mean, one of the concerns when you go through these things is the opportunity to go through it line by line and consider amendments, because even good governments and bad governments and governments with the best intentions and government with the bad don't necessarily get the language correct, don't necessarily understand the unintended consequences of some of the language in the bills. So by skipping through this line-by-line process, which the government is trying to sort of give a giddy up on through procedural maneuvering, we miss that opportunity. And then, of course, there are amendments that are recommended by other outside groups, like, say, the Internet Society of Canada, or even by major groups like Google and Netflix, or Apple or whatever, that they're going to review in secret. So we'll never know what the proposed amendments were unless they get adopted, right? That's inappropriate. It's demeaning to the democratic process, and it's frankly unnecessary. It makes the government and I can't understand why they'd be comfortable with this. There is no rush, but it makes them look like thugs.
A lot to keep our eyes on, Mr. Menzies. We are out of time, but we'll have to get you back on the show to talk about this more, sir. Thank you again for joining us today on Forum Daily.
Thank you for the time. Enjoy the day.